A very good morning on this 11th day of June 2020. Time for Morning Cafe. Of course, we kickstart your day on a very beautiful note, and most importantly, keeping you up to speed as to what is happening in the world of news. My name is Linda Alela, sitting in for Leangari, and of course, we'll take you through the days as we kick off, of course, activities that are being there. I mean, Kenyans eagerly waiting for the budget reading, just to get to know what exactly is going to play out in regards as to who is going to be the loser and who's going to be the winner. Of course, the projections out already, but then again, that is set, of course, to be announced by the CS for Matters Finance, and that is CS Ukuria Tani later on in the day. So we'll be following up on these events, and of course we keep you up to speed in regards to, first of all, what will be the projections, and most importantly, what the reactions will be from the people. So welcome on board. Thank you so much for always keeping it TV47. And as always, the norm, we kick off with the newspapers. We take a look at what is happening on the dailies. Today, I'll be focusing on the People's Daily, capturing key stories that have been making headlines throughout the week. And of course, it's the Thursday edition of Morning Cafe. So welcome on board once again. And joining me to crack on the newspapers is Gerald Bitok, who's a political and communication strategist. Good morning, Gerald.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for finding time, always.
Pleasure. Good to see you.
All right. And like I've said, it's important that we take a look at what is happening on the dailies, but not before I invite you to engage with us. It's pretty much important that we get your feedback. Of course, you can always drop them right there on hashtag Morning Cafe, and also on our Twitter handle, that is at TV47. So, Gerald, we have the People's Daily here with us, and of course, the biggest story on the front page, key stories being captured right here. Of course, COVID-19 will always find its place amid this time that we're struggling with the pandemic, and the Waiguru factor, and the impeachment process that is ongoing, expected to proceed to Senate this afternoon for a special hearing. And of course, Uhuru governor's map, or the roadmap towards ensuring that the economy is revived, especially at the level of the counties. And key also is the budget. So we'll kick off with this particular story of COVID-19. And of course, they say home-based care has been rolled out. That is according to Health CAS. 175 recoveries, the highest so far, even as infections surpass 3,000 mark after 105 positive cases were registered as of yesterday. I mean, are we really set to deal with this, according to you?
I still have some information, especially on the home-based care protocol that has been rolled out. And the main reason why I'm concerned is because I think the government should focus more on expanding their infrastructure at the county levels. Yeah. That will work better, because these are diseases that we're talking about that is very infectious, that can be transmitted very quickly and easily. Yeah. And talking about putting the responsibility of the disease on people in the village, people at home, is it's going to be strenuous, especially for those people. And I think if you look at the protocol, the way it comes out is that it still talks about isolation. If the government cannot be able to finance and manage isolation, then I honestly don't expect that an ordinary villager or someone who lives in a one-room house in Kibra or Madare, for that matter, can be able to handle the patient, able to implement the protocol. So I still have a lot of reservations, not actually a lot of reservations, and I think the government should look at that. If you look at the budget, the way they've looked at a lot of money to coronavirus. If and when the budget is serious, then the government should be speaking about expanding capacity in the counties, all the counties, so that we ensure that all the infrastructure are developed to an extent that we can still handle the patient. So I have reservations on home-based care. For that reason, I still have a lot of reservations. The government should look at
as it is. The government seems to be at the verge of losing it, based, of course, on the rising numbers and the cases that continue to take an upward trajectory by the day. In as much as maybe it has, it would want to say that yes, or you would want to argue that maybe people are not in a capacity to do this at home. I mean, what what other best option does the government have as it stands right now? Remember that meeting that was held yesterday, also one of the key stories that has been touched on right here with the county governors, in regards to ensuring that we have at least 300 beds in every isolation center across the country and all that. I mean, it is clear and evident that capacity-wise, the government is not able to deal with this. So, I mean, wouldn't that home-based quarantine and isolation be the only option left?
I think, Linda, I think that still would not make a lot of sense, because we've talked about the government ensuring that it finances a 35,000 bed capacity across the counties. That should be the focus. Increase the capacity to handle the patients, because the more we put other people at risk, and the government has been very specific, especially Minister of Health, Mutahi Kagwe. He has been saying that if we treat the disease normally, it will treat us abnormal. But unfortunately, it's actually the government that's treating the disease normally.
Yeah.
If it is true that this disease is as dangerous and as spreadable as it is, then the government should consider the home-based care protocol. If you asked about the options that the government has, the government does not have an option apart from expanding capacity. And I've always said this could be the only opportunity for us to relook at our healthcare strategies.
Right.
I think we should be focusing at this point more at expanding the healthcare capacity for us to handle the patients, because you can only imagine, Linda, what will happen when we start having these diseases back in the village. Because by the time someone learns government protocols, 1 or 3 people have already been infected. Then you talk about contact traces and all that. It will run crazy, I would say that. You can already see what is happening in Western Kenya, from Eldoret going down, where truck drivers have been lining up because of the jams and the lockdowns in Malaba border. There has been a traffic jam of trucks coming up all the way to Turbo and also past Turbo. And you can already see the disease spread all the way to Elgeyo Marakwet. Elgeyo Marakwet has already recorded around 25 cases. Nandi County has recorded cases. And these cases are all imported. Right. And imported from the route, the travel route, the road route, the Malaba, the Eldoret Malaba route, because of the backlog at Busia border. Right. So you can only imagine what will happen if we allow these patients again to be handled from home. You talk about there are vulnerable groups, old people who are still in the village. I mean, we cannot take that risk. It will be like decimating the whole population back in the village. I still maintain and I still insist that the government should take its responsibility. Linda, government has the responsibility of protecting its citizens. That's not bargainable. I mean, you cannot negotiate that. So the government should focus on expanding capacity to ensure that it can handle the disease. It cannot give an excuse of saying, what options do you have? The options they have is ensuring that they fix this. If we are in a world where healthcare and civic education has been given priority, we could talk about home-based care. But as we speak, people even in the village are still stigmatizing people.
All right. Gerald, are you trying to say that maybe, I mean, if we take this system or if we go with the home-based care route, then we are likely to get more infections, looking at the state of our homes, like you rightfully put, is the number of slums that we have around, and the level at which the population is pretty much high. And even worse, the fact that now we can say that we've not been able to deal with this at the level of the hospital, then what would be the guarantee that we can deal with the same at home?
It's not even more cases. A lot of cases will happen. I can guarantee you that. I can almost guarantee you that. I can guarantee you that, because the trends have been very predictable, very extremely predictable. And I say this, I say that we'll have a problem along the borders when we started talking about having issues with Tanzania and all that. And I say the moment the government starts putting the protocols in Busia border, we'll have issues back up country. It has happened. And I can almost guarantee you that if we continue to roll out the program, the home-based protocol, I can guarantee you that we'll not only have more cases, but we'll have cases that we cannot handle. I mean, you cannot solve a problem by creating a bigger problem. What we are creating right now with the home-based care is a bigger problem that we cannot handle. If we are talking about reducing the numbers of infections, then we should be focusing at fixing the patient. And I say this from the word-go. From the first patient, the government should have moved to completely isolate, the contact traces and fix them in one place. Yeah. We've talked about lockdowns regarding the counties, but still, we are allowing people to go all the way to Busia borders. When you talk about the border infections, it has been crazier, the infections that we began with. So I can guarantee you, Linda, that the moment we roll out the home-based care protocol, there will be immense rise of numbers, and the government will be struggling with more numbers than it is talking about right now. And not only numbers, if COVID-19 is as serious as the government is saying, then you should also expect a serious rise in deaths, because we are now looking at infections of vulnerable people back in the day.
Okay.
I still disagree with it.
Or are we looking at a double-speak government when we're speaking of ensuring that we make the best of our health facilities and also giving these home or options of, home-based quarantine and the likes, and looking at the reports that are coming that, we are now having a trajectory again also on the number of, frontline workers who are actually contracting or are getting infected by COVID-19. I mean, does it then mean that probably they have also looked into that and realized that there is need to ensure that they are protected by, of course, reducing the numbers that are there, that most of them actually are considered to be asymptomatic?
So let me ask you, Linda, if the government is talking about, actually I've seen there is a debate and there's a lot of complaints coming from the healthcare sector on PPEs, personal protective equipment. And the government is investing money in fighting the disease, COVID-19. In the budget, it has given billions of money. So it makes sense. And like you say, it's an issue of doublespeak. The government cannot speak about spending money in the healthcare sector and still talk about rolling out home care-based protocols. I mean, where is this billions going? We've received a lot of donor funds. Last week, we received 12.8 billion from the European Union. We're talking about money that's being pumped every day into the COVID-19, and we're not seeing any results. And when you talk about the government actually feeling comfortable with rolling out home-based care, when actually healthcare workers are complaining about personal protective equipment, it leaves a lot to be desired. And if this government is serious, there's a lot of worries that should be coming from such decisions. It does not make sense at all. Invest billions in healthcare and still roll out home-based care protocols. Healthcare complaining about personal protective equipment, and you're sending these people to the village where the healthcare sector is complaining about. That is nonsense.
All right. Okay. As of yesterday, we had recorded about 3,094 cases. That is the total cases. At least 175 recoveries, the highest so far, of course, recorded, even as the infection surpassed the 3,000 mark. As of yesterday, 105 had been tested positive. Even as we close on this issue of COVID-19, President Uhuru Kenyatta, of course, met governors yesterday. I don't know whether, yes, this is it, met governors yesterday, and, they were charting the way forward on one, of course, how best do we get to a point whereby we'll be able to recover, the issues or recover, a proper economy after or post-COVID-19. And, a few recommendations presented, a special committee, of course, that was set yesterday, and, they're set to report, in the course of the week, within that week, and looking at the 300 beds that are expected to be put in every isolation center across the country. And yes, home care facilities, 100% contact tracing. Contact tracing has been an issue. I would love to hear what you'd say about that. And of course, they have channeled 6.2 billion of county budget, total county budget, has been allocated towards addressing the issue of COVID-19. I mean, so far, do you suppose then that our counties can breathe that sigh of relief, knowing that, yes, measures will be put towards ensuring that we tame this spread of COVID-19?
So what is the government? I mean, that's a very funny strategy, because it's already talking about running the home-based care protocol, and again, it's investing money in the counties to fix the disease. If then we are talking about, if we have moved from the disease and we are not talking about the economy, then we should be talking about money being pushed into at least resuscitating the economic activities within the counties. But if we're still talking about fighting the disease and still rolling out home care protocol, I think that budget is misplaced in my own opinion. When you talk about contact tracing, the contact tracing has largely been done through NIS, which is financed by the government, actually, and the budgets of NIS are blacklisted. They are not available to public scrutiny, and they've talked about allocating more money to the NIS protocol and NIS Ministry and NIS Department of Government. So these budgets are still misplaced, in my own opinion. The NIS actually is financed by government. It's their duty to do what they are doing. They should run it. And I think what the country should have done, Linda, in my own opinion, is that they should have been very minimalistic in the way it's trying to get budget. If you look at the way the budget has been done, it's very repetitive in terms of healthcare, actually. It's very repetitive. When you look at the money allocated to the Ministry of Education, it's not about infrastructure. It's about, again, fixing the COVID-19. When you look at the money allocated to healthcare, it's still the same thing. And money, again, allocated to county protocols. The meeting that was done yesterday should be, well, commendable, but the recommendations and the decisions that are made are still very, very vague and suspect. And my only worry, and my biggest worry, is whether the money will go to the right places. Will the money go to the right places? You talked about the 5,000 bed capacity that is being developed across the counties. Will we have these bed capacities? And for what reasons then? If we're still running the home care protocol. So I have a lot of reservations still about the budget that has been done. The deliberations that were done yesterday at State House. I think we should be focusing more. It looks like the government has already gone past the coronavirus pandemic. They should now be telling us about the economy, because you cannot roll out two protocols at one time.
Well, we can only give them the benefit of doubt, Gerald, because then again, everyone is trying to figure out and understand COVID-19 and how best to deal with it. Now you've talked about budgeting, and I think today is the D-Day. First of all, you've had, of course, what projections are being made. I mean, the losers, the winners, and everything. But most importantly, or the sad bit, is that we are coming into a budget where, we've been weighed by the effects of COVID-19 in the country. And as the CS himself acknowledges that it's going to be tighter, and, in as much as maybe we'd look at projections and, we'd look at how, of course, these monies will be allocated, a clear indication that we might not be able to hit and meet the target in terms of servicing all these activities that are expected to be serviced in the next financial year. Even worse is that 7 billion is supposed to service debt. I mean, what do you make of this?
It's still crazy. I would say I actually looked at the budget and I was wondering what Likuri Atani was doing at night yesterday. Actually, Likuri Atani left the office, I think, at almost midnight. And I was wondering what this guy was doing, because the budget is very... It's very ridiculous in the way it has been rolled out. Right. And actually, the biggest burden you're going to carry as a country, and we are starting to feel it, is the burden of paying debts. It's going to be crazy. The money that is already being allocated to paying back monies is crazy, especially at the time when we are continuing to take more. And I said this last week, that if the world, and actually WHO, is serious about fixing coronavirus, it must stop giving money to African governments. Because African governments have a terrible appetite for loans. And the more you're giving these guys loans to fight the coronavirus, they'll keep taking the loans and keep announcing the numbers.
In defense of that, sorry to cut you short, Gerald, in defense of that, of course, constantly you've heard President Uhuru Kenyatta saying that, well, a majority of countries are surviving courtesy of debt, and there's nothing wrong with, of course, proceeding to take debt. And we know that economically, actually, there's nothing wrong with that for as long as you're able to service this debt. Ukuri Atani yesterday in one of the local stations arguing that indeed, we have attained a debt that we are able to manage. Do you suppose that the leadership is being genuine with the people?
A question would be, if we cannot finance our own budget, how will you be able to service debt? It's common sense. I'm not a financial expert, but I'll tell you this as a layman, that it is only common sense that you cannot claim to have the capacity to service debt when you don't have the capacity to finance your own budget. Every problem that we have as a country, we have to use loans to fix the problem. So I think your time is not being sincere, and these conversations have been going. You remember the IMF gave us a red light on our debt crisis, that was looking at it. And the government has continued to sanitize its decisions to take loans. And I won't repeat it in this government, because it will pick up a country that will be struggling with debt. Yatani cannot speak cannot blow from both sides of his mouth. On one point, he's saying that the government is worried that the government might not be able to finance the budget yesterday. And again, he's saying that the government has the capacity to pay back debt. So, Linda, from your layman point of view, you'll agree with me that the government is being ridiculous. You cannot say you have the capacity to pay loans when you don't have the capacity to finance yourself. Let's look back at how Kibaki used to run the economy. Right. Kibaki's economy was run almost 100% by local, the tax funding, because it expanded the tax bracket. If you look at what Jubilee has continued to do, it has even failed to meet the targets in tax collections. Kibaki not only met the tax collection targets, but also expanded the bracket without burdening Kenyans. Jubilee government has continued to load more taxes on commodities and the already existing tax accounts to an extent that the government cannot be able to, to reap fully from the gains of taxation. Because if you continue taxing even consumer commodities to an extent that the Mwananchi cannot be able to buy them, then it means you are reducing the ability to collect taxes. So I want to say this, and I still insist, that the government not only has zero capacity to pay back debt, but it also has zero capacity to request for more debt. We cannot continue running on an economy from debt to debt.
Sad to note, Gerald, sad to note is that, well, in as much as we're still having a debt that we are servicing as it stands right now, that every other Kenyan who's born is born with debt, worth millions of money. Reality, again, is that they say they will proceed to get more debt. This time around, though, they will consider concessional loans as opposed to commercial. I mean, where does it place us again? I mean, looking at the future, will we ever strike that balance? Because in as much as we would want to celebrate the times of, retired President Kibaki, reality again is, that is a former president, reality again is that, yes, like you rightfully put it, we're not able to service the debt. And every other time the budget is being read, there's not a single time where Kenyans have come out happy. Only specific sectors would come out happy based on what they have received at that particular financial year.
It's still, I'm telling you, it's going to get crazy. If the government is not talking about moving from commercial loans to, to concession loans, then it tells you that they're already feeling the pinch. I mean, they're already knowing that they have stretched, their loan appetite. It's going further. It's like saying now you have now moved from commercial bank loans, as umeanza kuomba loans za Tala na what do you call this other Mshwari and Fuliza. You've already exhausted your bank capacity. The commercial loan capacity is now moving to those loans that are very concessional. If you look at the way infrastructure has been done also in the country, it's quite suspicious and very suspect. And the problem with the Kenyan government is its transparency. The other day I was having a conversation with some guys from the French government, and they were telling me that the road from Nairobi to Nakuru is owned by the French. And they're going to very soon they're going to install toll centers to be able to collect money to pay back their debts. So, Linda, it's a bleak future. I can tell you, you're going to give birth to children who need to survive to pay back loans. I mean, it's crazy. And if you look at the way the government is running its protocols, it's not focusing on injecting money to stimulate the economy. If you look at the way the Kenya's economy is operating, is that more companies are winding up, more corporate, more investors are turning to other countries like Ethiopia. If you look at Ethiopia today, even Samsung was supposed to set up a manufacturing center in the country. It moved to Ethiopia. Every company right now, every investor is moving to Ethiopia. So you cannot speak about an economy that's going to recover as long as you're not providing the necessary environment for businesses to thrive.
Let me play the devil's advocate.
And it's quite sad.
Let me play the devil's advocate on this one. Well, in as much as we know that as of now, courtesy of COVID-19, 1.7 million Kenyans have lost their jobs. That is very sad to note. And we're looking at, 2.7 trillion budget, of course, not overlooking the gross aspect of it, which is 3.2 trillion. And again, Ukur Yatani insisting that, of course, the government has in store plans of ensuring that they're able to revive the economy, get it to that point of, where it was, which was taking a good recession. And, saying that they have come up with programs within this particular budget, like, for instance, Kazi Mtaani programs for youths towards ensuring that they create employment to revive the economy, stimulus package, of course, or budget set to form employment. And, a couple of other things that he mentioned to us, saying that, this will create employment, this will help us, try and find ways of ensuring that we create employment for people to revive the status of the economy. So, in as much as we might want to say that, well, they have done so bad, if at all this is to be implemented, do you suppose then it would come in handy towards ensuring that at least we take it to, another level?
Kazi Mtaani actually is a very noble idea. Kazi Mtaani is an extremely noble idea, and actually it's an idea that has, that already come ripe of age a long time ago. It's late. I mean, it's already late. It's something that should have happened before. Because when you talk about Kazi Mtaani, it means it's more money that streams the downstreams down to the common one engine. And when you get money to the common one engine, it means you run the circulation better. When 100 people have money in the village, it means that money is able to circulate very fast in the village, and 1 to 3 people, and even others are able to benefit. And I think that would be one of the economic stimulus strategy for the government. And I wish the government could pump more money. You looked at the money that has been said to be allocated to the SMEs. Yeah. The SME is a very amorphous department, or a very amorphous sector of the economy, because you cannot completely reach out and you don't have the necessary data and numbers on how to allocate money. When you look at Kazi Mtaani, it means now real time money is going down to the villages and downstream to the grassroots where the economy is thriving from. And I can tell you, Linda, that the only way to revive the economy is to ensure that those people, the SMEs and the small holders of the economy, and those vijanas back in the village have something in their pockets. When they have something in their pockets, it means the economy can run faster. When you look at rich people, they keep their money in banks. Banks don't run the economy. But when the common community has money, when I have 100 shillings in the village today, in the evening when I'm going to watch news at the center, I'll spend almost 50 shillings. That money is also going to run to another supplier, and the money is so the other person is going to get supplies. The money churns up very quickly. So Kazi Mtaani is a very noble idea, and I wish the government could invest more money in that. But the question again would be, how many people will be able to enroll? And I think in the best interest of the public, probably next week or in the next 2 weeks, we should be able to try and get this data from the government so that we know how the government is rolling out the Kazi Mtaani, how many people have been enrolled, how much money has been pushed to the villages, and so that we can see how it reverberates through the economy. So I'll agree with you that that's a good strategy. But apart from that strategy, I want to ask you, Linda, what is the other strategy of reviving the economy?
All right.
Which other strategies there?
Okay, that's interesting. This one, I'll limit you to a question of a yes or no answer. And this is it. The entire global community is dealing with this. And, politically, economies have been affected across different parts of the countries. Different countries are facing it. Do you suppose that our economy is resilient enough to withstand and survive this compared to a majority others in Africa?
I would say a yes. That would have a small answer. Yes, the economy. Actually, the Kenya's economy is not resilient. Yes or no, it's the Kenyans who are resilient. So yes, Kenyans are resilient, not the economy.
All right, we've touched so much on COVID-19 because it's sort of making or holding the better part of the newspaper, but not before we exit. We cannot exit before addressing the aspect of politics and Waiguru factor. What do you make of all this drama that is ongoing?
I think Waiguru has survived enough battles, and it's time Waiguru goes by, because Waiguru has a lot of penchants for. He has a lot of affinity for crisis and controversy and all that. Everywhere Waiguru has stepped, there must be a trail of controversy and high-handedness and the way she runs things and all that. So Waiguru, I know, of course, she might survive the Senate because the Senate has been manipulated, has been turned into a house of cards. So she'll survive the Senate. But again, now she's been turned into a tennis ball. The Senate will lead it back to the county assembly. The county assembly will send her back to the Senate. I mean, Waiguru should choose one thing: either resign honorably or actually own up to the cases. And if you look at what is happening to Waiguru, ESCC is already investigating her for 50 million shillings that were somehow allocated in a fraudulent way. So Waiguru is already got soup. And I think at times when you find yourself in a hole, the best thing to do is not to dig further. I think Waiguru is digging further. I saw what she did yesterday by releasing a battery of lawyers to fight the case. It's already a done case. The Senate might favor her because I saw the committee that has been set up by the Senate. Yeah. It's a joke. The committee is clearly to say Waiguru. But Linda, if they say Waiguru in the Senate, they'll still fix her back in the village at the county assembly level.
All right, interesting. Yeah. I think we can only wait to see what will play out this afternoon at the level of the Senate. Yes or no, do you suppose then that the people of Kirinyaga pulled a terrible mistake in electing her as governor?
Of course, the way they are reacting, but again, Kenyans, we are very good at making mistakes and very greatly done. But Waiguru has already had scandals dawning on them.
But she also claims that, she has a right to be heard, and she says it's a political witch hunt.
I mean, there's a difference between having a right to be heard, Linda, and you know, if you look at the cases that have been put on Waiguru,
Right.
You cannot actually stand for Waiguru. If you look at the cases, there's a lot of evidence that is
But she
going on
still
about.
walks scot-free. A clear indication, I mean, as is rightfully enshrined in the Constitution, you are only, guilty. You're only what, even until proven guilty? You're innocent.
You're only
until you're proven guilty.
But again, if you see the determinations by the MCS, if the MCS can sleep in the chamber to chase you in the morning, and you can only imagine what's going to happen when Guru is taken back there. I can guarantee you 100% that Kirinyaga County has now gone full-blown to 2022 politics. It's going to stall. There's nothing that's going to happen anymore. Not unless now the government is going to rain on the county assemblies the way it rained on the Nairobi County Assembly. But again, there'll be a lot of bias, Linda. There's no way we can talk about rescuing Waiguru when we sacrificed Waititu during the day. Even when Waititu was crying, and it's funny that the names all sound the same.
Yeah.
But we must treat Waiguru the same way we treated Waititu. Full stop. If we treat Waiguru differently, it means that we are not serious about the fight against corruption. If we are serious about the fight against corruption, then Waiguru should be crucified next to Waititu.
Hold it right there. Thank you so much, Gerald Bitok. I think it's important that, again, we take a breather. It's exactly 31 minutes past 6 a.m. in the morning. And this is Morning Cafe with me, Linda Alela. Thank you so much for keeping it TV47. We're taking a breather. We'll be coming back with more news. And later on, again, we'll have Gerald as we crunch more on the issues that are making headlines. Remember, this is State of Affairs, Thursday edition of Morning Cafe. We'll be back with this and much more. Thank you for choosing to stay with us on Morning Cafe. It's now time that we go through the news stories that have been prepared by my team. And the country is set to be reopened gradually in the coming months. This according to an agreement reached on during the extraordinary summit between the national and the county governments convened at State House yesterday. Now, the day-long meeting between President Uhuru Kenyatta and the 47 county governors also agreed upon gradual relaxation of the COVID-19 restrictions in the country. Zainab Mohammed with the details.
Just months after the country's partial lockdown and the placement of strict containment measures to combat the rising cases of COVID-19 in the country, there's a sign of an end in sight. An extraordinary summit between the national and county governments held at State House on Wednesday agreed on the gradual reopening of the country. According to a statement sent to newsrooms, the meeting between President Uhuru Kenyatta and the governors discussed ways to slowly relax the containment measures due to their effects to the country's economy.
Given ourselves 30 days additional, and we have done this in order to ensure that our citizens remain safe. But I do believe that within that 30 days, each and every one of us must do that which is necessary to ensure that even as we open up in a manner that is safe, that protects our citizens, especially the elderly and those who have other ailments and ills that would be ready victims for this enemy of ours if we were to open up without a proper plan.
It's clear that revenue is going to fall drastically, and we have no idea how it's going to perform in the years to come.
The governors also discussed the effects COVID-19 has had on different sectors, including education, the economy, and the struggling health sector, as the president pointed out that it's an opportune moment for the country to improve conditions in all these sectors.
Quite a number of sectors are gravely affected. If you look at the agricultural sector, it's been hit by low demand because export has shrunk. Mainly our foreign exchange earners like horticulture, tea, coffee, has even been made worse, even some situation in the agricultural sector with the onset of locust. The manufacturing sector, there's low demand, there's a reduction of import of raw materials and other intermediate goods. The financial sector, there is reduced diaspora remittance. There's capital flight as a result of foreigners withdrawing their capital. There's reduced investment inflows. The revenue performance has actually gone down, and all other domestic taxes has also shrunk.
The head of state has also called upon the governors to set aside their party differences and work together in putting Kenya back to its feet.
The conscience of the entire nation is called to order. The party affiliations and political dynamics of the moment are put asunder. When this summit sits, its only business is Kenya. No party affiliations. We are encouraging social distancing, but here we are encouraging no political distancing and no ethnic divisions.
The governors also deliberated on modalities of implementing the 300-bed capacity COVID-19 wards in every county.
The handwork is essentially at the county level. We have seen various degrees of success and admittedly failures as well in some areas.
The next extraordinary summit has been set for Wednesday next week, when more deliberations and decisions on COVID-19 containment will be made. For TV47, I'm Zainab Mohammed.
All right, now the government has officially launched the home-based care and isolation guidelines, making Kenya the first African country to adopt the system. Speaking at Afya House Wednesday evening, Health CAS Dr. Rashid Aman said that 78% of infections in the country are asymptomatic and can be monitored at home. This as the government seeks to decongest isolation facilities in the country. David Mudoka reports.
The country has taken a different trajectory in the handling of positive COVID-19 cases following the launch of home-based care and isolation guidelines that take effect from Wednesday. With 78% of infections in the country mild, hospital-based isolation facilities will be preserved for those severely hit by the novel coronavirus. Speaking at Afya House, Nairobi on Wednesday, Health CAS Dr. Rashid Aman said the supervision of the implementation of the 22-page guidelines shall be done under the supervision of medical and public health officials.
While the World Health Organization recommends that all laboratory confirmed cases of COVID-19 be isolated and cared for in a healthcare facility, it also recognizes that not all cases can be cared for in a health facility when the numbers begin to rise.
However, for a patient to qualify for home-based health care, he or she is expected to have been confirmed first as COVID-19 positive at a laboratory. He or she should display only mild symptoms, have no pre-existing medical conditions, and have access to a suitable space at home. Whether the residential setting is suitable for offering such care to a patient will depend on availability of appropriate caregivers, separate bedroom, toilet, and bathroom facilities, availability of recommended personal protective equipment to both the caregivers and those infected, and capability to adhere to recommended precautions. The patient should be placed in a well-ventilated room and should have minimal interactions with other people, including caregivers. If the patient develops severe symptoms, they should call 719 and the caregivers further notify the designated healthcare worker. For symptomatic patients, the isolation should last at least 14 days and can be declared COVID-19 free if they do not display symptoms since they first tested positive. For the symptomatic cases, home-based isolation care can only end after 72 hours of no fever without using any fever-reducing medicine. The guideline has also introduced a digital monitoring system of patients dubbed the Jitenge system to monitor household contacts, the isolated patient, and the post-isolation discharged patient. According to Aman, community health volunteers will be the communication link between healthcare workers and the households for a period until one is declared COVID-19 free.
Home-based care in informal settlements, where households share small spaces, will require identification of institutions within the community, institutions that meet the recommendations for providing such care.
The patients will, however, have to fill a form outlining their eligibility for the program, with healthcare workers set to assess whether they meet the criteria. This as the country today recorded 105 new cases and 1 fatality. Now, with home-based care guidelines officially launched today, the country also recorded its first triple-figure tally of recoveries in a single day. David Mudhoka for TV47 News Tonight, Nairobi.
And to a story that we had touched on earlier on the newspaper review, Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru has filed a case to challenge her impeachment by the county assembly. Waiguru's move coming on a day Senate Speaker Kenneth Lusaka received a resolution to impeach the county boss. Meanwhile, Gender, Public and Service CS, that is Margaret Kobia, equally came out a little bit gloomy in regards to this, criticizing the people who are moving this motion to impeach her, terming it as, going against what would be the aspect of gender role. Take a look.
Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru is challenging the legality of her ouster by the county assembly. Waiguru claiming there was a court order barring the county assembly from debating her impeachment. The resolution to impeach her has now been received by Senate Speaker Ken Lusaka. Lusaka says the impeachment process in Senate will be fair to both the Kirinyaga County Assembly and the county boss.
We'll then decide which way to go about the whole process. Because one, a decision will have to be made, because a motion will then have to be brought to the Senate indicating whether we are going to have a committee of 11 to look at the allegations made, then make recommendations, or we are going to have a plenary session just like we did with the Kiambu.
Earlier on, Gender Cabinet Secretary Professor Margaret Kobia had defended Waiguru, criticizing her ouster. Kobia terming the ouster as one that didn't value strong women leadership. The statement read that the governor is being impeached during the fight against COVID-19, which is negatively impacting on social economic development of the country. However, the statement has been criticized sharply. Waiguru is facing violation of the constitution, abuse of office, and gross misconduct, with her fate now lying in the Senate. Andreen Kilemi reporting for TV47.
And now, today, the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury, Ukur Yatani, will read in Parliament the budget highlights for the 2020-2021 financial year and the revenue-raising measures. This will happen amidst the coronavirus pandemic, which has had adversely affected the global economy. And in Kenya, the tax bracket has reduced significantly. Mwangi Maina reports.
Kenyans will be eagerly waiting for Mr. Austerity, the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury, Ambassador Ukur Yatani, for his maiden budget presentation to the country in the National Assembly. With a depressed economy reeling from the economic turmoil brought about by the novel coronavirus, Kenyans will be waiting for this man to make known what he has for them. Falling on the backdrop of the pandemic, this time round things will be different. It will be a budget day like no other. Not too much color and pomp as the CS and his team make their way to the National Assembly chambers and will present the budget in the presence of only 25% of MPs who will be in the chamber. The budget comes at a time when the country is facing massive job losses, missed revenue targets, reduced revenue allocation, and increased expenditure towards the fight against coronavirus. This means that Yatani and his team have to scratch their heads even harder to balance the tough equation.
Tutaendelea kuona ni kwa njia gani tutasaidiana na Wakenya wenzetu, haswa wale ambao wamelemewa kabisa, na tuone ni kwa njia gani tutaweza kuwasaidia katika wakati huu mgumu ambao tuko nao.
With the government having reduced value-added tax from 16 to 14% and reduction in payee and a tax relief for persons earning 24,000 shillings and less, this means the government has to look for means to sustain the economy. This will lead to more borrowing, to put more money in the pockets of Kenyans, with every sector looking up to Yatani. The Central Bank of Kenya says SMEs are most vulnerable, with 3/4 most likely not to make it past June since they lack capital. Last year, the economy grew downwards from 6.3% in 2018 to 5.4% in 2019, with a ravaged economy, floods, locust invasion, COVID-19 pandemic, and wanton misuse of public funds. The economy can only go down.
SMEs, MSMEs as well, don't have a lot of let's say, buffers in terms of credit or in terms of other resources that they can use. And therefore, they generally would die quickly. They are very vulnerable in that sense. And as a matter of fact, there was a survey that was done at the end of April, and that survey indicated that three-quarters of SMEs, of the surveyed SMEs, do not have cash beyond 2 months.
Walking on a tightrope, CS Ukur Yatani and his East African counterparts are seeking a moratorium on paying foreign debts to allow the East African nations to at least survive on the little they have. Uganda, Tanzania and Rwanda will have their budgets read tomorrow. Yatani is a second Treasury CS under the Jubilee administration. His predecessor, Henry Rotich, left office early this year after being charged with corruption in court. Mwangi Maina, TV47, Nairobi.
And on the very same note, Kenyans have expressed mixed expectations for the 2020-2021 budget at a time when the country is combating the coronavirus pandemic and had economic times. Here are some of those who spoke to, and of course, these are their expectations. Right, yes, different reactions, but then again also acknowledgement of the fact that indeed the COVID-19 has brought us to the knees. So, I mean, lots of people in different sectors having different reactions in comparison to what was there back That was last year, the last financial year, that is 2019-2020. And like has been reported very well by Maina, I mean, this time around there's no pomp and color. There's not so much activity, especially now that we are dealing with a constrained economy. So let's take a look at that.
Mimi naonelea hii budget wakisoma kesho hakuna kitu inasaidia mkaichi wa Kenya sababu corona iko imeleta shida, ni kama gari imekwama kwa matope. Unaona? Huwezi kumaitoka ndani. So mimi ningeonelea hii budget hata ungewacha kwanza isome.
Kwa hivyo tungependelea ashukishe unga kabisa, ishuke, imepanda sana. Hasa hamna hata maziwa. Iko juu zaidi. Maziwa saa hii mimi kwa nyumba yangu huwa nanunua ya 45 na sasa huwa nataka kwa wiki nitumia kama paketi 10. Sasa unaona hiyo ni pesa mingi sana maziwa peke yake.
Budget ikuwe rahisi kwa raia kama sisi, yani ikuwe chini. Isikuwe wasiongeze vitu, maisha imekuwa ngumu.
My expectations is that watakuwa wamepunguza vitu, especially housing and you see like what has been happening. People have been, manyumba zimebomolewa. People don't have money right now. People don't have money.
Hamna Kenya itasaidia kwa sababu hata saizi mafuta ilishukishwa mpaka 84 shillings. Lakini hata mafuta yenyewe ukiweka kwa pikipiki kama sisi wana bodaboda, hakuna kazi tunafanya nayo. Unaweka tu mafuta kwa pikipiki na kaa unazunguka tu nayo.
Ni budget ya watu wakubwa, si budget ya wananchi wa kawaida. Tungeomba wangeangalia vile tumeathirika kwa ajili ya hii ugonjwa wa corona na walete msaada wa mahitaji. Wakenya wako na mahitaji kwa sababu wameathirika, hata biashara hakuna.
And the public debt stock is currently standing at more than 6.3 trillion Kenyan shillings, which is more than 60% of the GDP. The debt burden, which has received criticism, has risen from 39% in 2010. Treasury CS Ukur Yatani has, however, been defending the government borrowing appetite.
Heavy on Treasury CS Ukur Yatani in his budget of 2020-2021 is the growing public debt, a debt that has risen to 6.3 trillion Kenya shillings, which is equivalent to 60% of GDP. In 2010, the public debt was at 39% of the GDP, which was approximately 1.2 billion Kenya shillings. Currently, the country facing a 3.2 trillion shillings and a 3.1 trillion domestic debt.
So if people are not consuming because of COVID-19, because they do not have money in their pocket, and people are not producing, organizations are not producing because of COVID-19, because of social distancing and lockdown, then it means that when we come up with a budget of 1.6 trillion, which is even higher than what was collected in 2018-2019, I think 1.58 trillion. When we did not have some of those challenges, then I think for me it is more ambitious, which brings a problem actually when it comes to how the budget is going to be implemented.
This will be the first time the external debt is increased by higher margin than domestic debt. Treasury CS Ukur Yatani, in defending the government's borrowing appetite, however, says the move is aimed at moving away from expensive commercial loans.
We must actualize real and actual fiscal consolidation to ensure that we continue to reduce on our budget deficit so that we borrow less.
The issue of public debt is now an emergency in this country. I think we need to be bold and candid and tell the executive that we need a day to have a national dialogue on public debt.
Yatani's maiden budget coming at a time the global economy is shaky. According to International Monetary Fund, IMF, projections Kenya's economy growth is likely to remain flat this year. The House Committee on Budget, however, claims the 2020-2021 will be unrealistic.
I think the solution to the debt in this country is to renegotiate some of those debts. We cannot be paying 1 trillion interest on debts every year and expect to do anything using in a financial year.
Governments across Africa are currently faced by huge loan burdens, especially from China. These African governments have, however, called for the suspension of debt interest payments as the COVID-19 crisis deepens. Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Josh. Now, it is a reprieve for embattled Ford Kenya party leader Moses Wetangula after the registrar of political parties, Nderitu, asked the two rival factions of the party to resolve the matter through an internal party dispute tribunal. This comes after Moses Wetangula asked the party tribunal to bar the office of the registrar of political parties from initiating changes made to the party leadership until the case is heard and determined.
Addressing media Wednesday after receiving the letter from the registrar of political parties, Moses Wetangula termed his purported dismissal from the party leadership as unconstitutional, and now the matter will be resolved internally.
And the documented submission of the legitimate leadership of the party, she has reached a conclusion that there is a probable dispute in the party, and she has read our party constitution very clearly and understood it. And our constitution says if there is any issue in the party, either between a member and the party, or between a member of the party and another member of the party, the matter must be resolved through a dispute resolution mechanism set out elaborately in that constitution.
Further, Kiminini MP Chris Wamalwa says the party has already initiated a disciplinary committee that will seek to punish members purported to have organized his ouster, saying action will be taken against them.
We are going to endeavor discipline in this party. And as we move forward, the three masqueraders must appear before the disciplinary committee from next week. That is Honorable Eseli, Honorable Munyinyi, and Cynthia Mutere. Failure to which, choices have consequences. Simba Party, we are not going to entertain any disciplinary cases.
A few days after his dismissal as Ford Kenya party leader, Moses Wetangula took the matter to court, seeking to stop the registrar of political parties from initiating the changes, terming them as unconstitutional. Through his lawyer John Haminwa, Wetangula wants the matter to be heard and determination made before any changes are gazetted.
To the registrar of political parties through Eunice Malas. I've got 3 copies here.
These developments in Ford Kenya come after members allied to Moses Wetangula held a day-long meeting with the registrar of political parties on Monday over the stalemate in Kenya's second oldest political party. Eli Logova, TV47, Nairobi.
That's where, of course, we stop at on Matters News. We'll be presenting more news to you on our subsequent bulletins. Sorry about that. So it's time that we cross over for a short breather, and we'll be right back with state affairs right here on Morning Cafe as we discuss the issues that have been making headlines throughout the week. So don't you go anywhere. Welcome back to Morning Cafe. Time for State Affairs. And joining me this morning is Joseph Simeha and Joy Mdivo, both of them, of course, political analysts, to crack on the activities that have been taking center stage in the country, matters politics, matters economy, as we try to crack on how best we can move forward, and most importantly, how best we can deal with the pandemic that is still ongoing across the globe. And not forgetting the battles that have been drawn, or the lines that have been drawn between the judiciary and the executive. What way forward, and what is left of the common mwananchi or the citizen who's looking forward to these two arms of government. One, to ensure that at least they get the best of course, leadership, and most importantly, justice at all costs. So we cross over to the guest of the day. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, Linda.
Thank you so much for finding time.
Asante.
All right, so okay, I think I'll start with this. I'm sure you all expect me to start with the budget, but no, I'll not touch on the budget first. Let's say politics is highly creeping in or creeping back amid this time that we are dealing with COVID-19. What do you make of this? I mean, the leadership. Joy.
It just goes to show that life does not stop when you have got a big emergency on your hands. Because the first few days when everybody was shell-shocked, you are not too sure what you are dealing with, you realize that the entire country sort of ground to a halt. And remember the images that were making rounds on social media of empty streets in Nairobi, and everybody had deserted. But once people had sort of felt a bit more comfortable with the disease around, we had learned a little bit more about the protocol to keep ourselves safe. Then slowly by slowly, the country started opening up again. People started relaxing again, and the streets started filling up again. Now, with normal life resuming, normal life includes politicians. And so the next thing we saw was, while we were at home with the COVID, people were busy working, and that's what clever people have done in this season. They have learned a new skill, started a new side hustle. So the politicians also did not go to sleep. So politics is definitely back center stage, but hopefully it's not just politics, but it's politics of moving forward and of development, which is what I'm hoping that it pans out to be in the end.
As we always put it, the politicians are paid to politic. Joseph, sad to note that indeed the politics that we witness today is the politics of intolerance, toxicity. I mean, in as much as we would say it's okay, life does not stop amid COVID-19. When you see such politics being played in the country as we are dealing with such a crisis, what does it speak about our nation?
I think first of all, my first observation is that we shouldn't ever expect politics to go away. I've always told people that it's a lie when you are told that separate politics from development. Politics should always be there. Whether you like it or not, it will always be there. It sets the pace in society. What is distracting is when it becomes petty, and is when we engage in competitive politics all the time, politics of competition. But if we are cleaning up house, if we are pulling together for the sake of the nation, if we are calling out, those who are doing things wrong, the wrong way, either illegal, unethical, and so on and so forth, those are useful politics, and it's good for the nation to continue with that. I think what really just makes them sound like they're such a big thing, because they've never gone away. I think it's really just being highlighted in the media, which is useful, actually. It's also good that we know what's happening. But it shouldn't be alarming, because really what is different? Has anything really changed? It's not alarming at all. So I think perhaps that break that Joy is talking about, that the COVID-19 forced us into, perhaps made us forget who we are. But do not be surprised when you see this kind of politics of cleaning up house, or positioning and so on going on all the time. The negative for me is when it becomes destructive, not only destructive, but also destructive because of the distraction. Because at some point, honestly, we should all be agreeing to pull in the same direction. There are many things that afflict us, regardless of our political positions, on which we must agree to pull in the same direction.
All right, President Uhuru Kenyatta on Madaraka Day, constantly emphasizing on the importance of change of constitution in the event that there is a need for that. Do you suppose then, even as the country eyes that aspect of opening the economy, could be a way of laying ground for the BBI or maybe the reggae tune to come back? Joy.
In fact, I'm hopeful of the same, because when we had the initial BBI report, you remember prior to the report being launched, there was a lot of opposition to the report because people were apprehensive. It was all about creating positions and all that stuff. But once the report came out, we saw, surprisingly, everybody saying, you know what, this is actually a very good idea. And there's some ideas in the BBI report that have got nothing to do with politics. So, for example, if we talk about national ethos, you're looking at shared prosperity. These are things, as Simek has correctly pointed out, affect all Kenyans. It's not just politicians. So there's some aspects of that if they were realized, you'd find that it would be an excellent thing for the country. But again, politics had clouded the conversation. And so there are people who are thinking, oh, if so-and-so is on this side, I don't want to be involved. If so-and-so is on this side, then I don't want it. Maybe now this is the time to look at the BBI report for what it really is. Wait for BBI 2 to come out, because people had started conversations and rallies around something that we had not yet even seen. So this is an opportunity for us as a country to say, okay, fine. Can this BBI produce something that all of us can rally around? But is it what we are suspecting all along, that people waited for the volume of reggae to go down for them to insert all the positions for the big people? So I would that we don't kill that conversation. Let's give an opportunity to see what comes out. And when there's something to be embraced, let's run with it, because truth be told, a lot of money has been spent on this thing already. It's our money, it's our time. Right. It might as well benefit us.
Okay, interesting view right there. So when you talk about the opportunities that are there for the people, I mean, Joseph, do you suppose then that this also is an opportunity for most of the politicians, again, like, of course, we had pinpointed, to get a chance to get more positions for themselves? And I mean, looking at what has played out of late, and a majority of the politicians allied to Deputy President William Ruto, you know, Team Tanga Tanga as they are called, now trying to warm up to Baba and, you know, having those moments with Right Honorable Raila Odinga. I mean, have they just realized that BBI is the real deal?
You know, I would say it shouldn't surprise you when a politician who reasons sees something that looks like it has a chance to resonate with the people. They will rally, you know, for that
around it.
They will rally around it. So this should not surprise you at all. They are seeing that there's a possibility that whatever is being proposed in BBI will carry the day. A clever politician who sees some project that looks like it will succeed and carry the minds and hearts of people, they will rally around that project, even if they have nothing to do with it, even when sometimes they do not understand that project. They just want a photo op to be seen, to be part of it, so that they can be looked at favorably by voters, by citizens. So no surprises. Do you genuinely think that the people will rally behind this? Do they really even have an understanding? Like Joy has said, sometimes we critique even before we get to know what the actual document or the end document will be like. I actually want to talk about that. A lot of people reduced BBI to the competitive rallies that you saw, where people are slugging insults at each other and so on, and people think that is BBI. And especially when it was baptized reggae, and people thought, okay, BBI is that reggae that we are seeing on television every afternoon, every evening, every morning. But those who stopped to read that report then understood exactly what this BBI is. And for me, I see that it's a tremendous opportunity for this country to have a conversation on what is going wrong.
Right.
Even small things that are so fundamental. Let me give you just one example. What Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta did, they indicted even their own late fathers. They said that, look, we got it wrong. Let us stop as a nation and admit that we got it wrong, and let us see how we can correct where we got it wrong. So by saying that, they don't excuse themselves. They count themselves in part of that we got it wrong. And if this BBI will have a good communication strategy, it will carry along the people of Kenya. They will get to know the content more than form. In the past, before COVID, people knew much more about form. Who is dressed how, who is going to which rally, who is parading where, who is dancing the best, who is insulting the other. That's all about form.
Right.
But now content, core content, if BBI has a good communication strategy, people will be surprised by what is actually being proposed in this process. Pleasantly surprised, I should add.
All right, we are waiting to see what will play out in that, so let's not jump the gun. Let's come a little bit lower, because then, of course, that was the national aspect, and look at the Waiguru factor. We've seen different, parties, sort of dropping a purge across, affecting some of the party members. And clearly, this is now a different affair, as members of the county assembly in Kirinyaga County have also said that, it's a proper purge on the governor herself. I mean, what do you make of yesterday's events? And so far, what would you suppose would be the fate of Anne Waiguru, looking at the aspect of gender, Joy?
Now, I'm a bit apprehensive about looking at it purely from a gender perspective, because one of the things that I was very heartened by is that this time around we had 3 women elected as governors.
Yes.
So for the women agenda, this was a huge step. But we have always maintained that when women are taking up leadership positions, we're taking up leadership positions because we are capable. We are worthy of leadership. We have something to offer, we have something to bring to the table. However, what is good for the goose is good for the gander. I will not be one to defend the indefensible simply because one is a woman. But that said, you have to agree that in this country, women seem to be held at certainly a much higher standard than their male counterparts when it comes to some of these issues. So, for example, there are quite a few governors who have faced allegations of corruption, but you have not seen the same vim and vigor applied towards, maybe men are better at statecraft, I don't know. They know how to keep people happy and keep people quiet. But there's one thing that I must laud this entire process. It's testing the veracity of our Constitution and showing the different organs the authority that they have and how to use it. So we saw this with Governor Waititu, where the Assembly rose to the challenge, impeached him, and when he went to the Senate, he could not defend himself against allegations, and he was shown the door. We saw it with Governor Wambora, who went and successfully defended himself at the Senate. So for Governor Waiguru, one of the things that I think she has going for her is that she has been a very vocal and very positive leader in terms of helping rally people towards the president agenda, the BBI. She's been a leading light. So for that reason, I'm sure that ways and means shall be found to help buttress her position. But she still faces very real allegations. And if she does not have a very robust way of ensuring that those are addressed, this could very well prove to be problematic, that even though she's not impeached, she could be ending up like what you're seeing with Governor Kidero, where even after office, this could still pursue her. So she may be able to survive the political storm right now because she's a very important cog in the wheels of what is going on in the politics of this country. But if the allegations truly hold water, this could be something that's not going away soon. She could be spending quite a bit of time and money in court in future, trying to defend herself and to clear her name, or maybe to face the consequences of her actions, inactions, or misdeeds.
All right.
So the jury is out there.
Okay, the jury is out there, as you rightfully put it. Lusaka received the impeachment documents, and of course today we are set to hear from the special committee that has been set towards addressing this later in the afternoon. We'll be following up on that story and updating you. And like they say, when it rains, it suddenly pours. So EACC is equally on, of course, Waiguru's case, and, allegedly awarding tender irregularity of a couple of issues that have been leveled against her. That aspect of saying, awarding herself, travel allowances that really were not necessary and, that were never there in the first place. I mean, all these issues put in one basket, reminding us of the NYS saga that she successfully, or so they say, was safe enough to, escape that one. Simeha, do you suppose that this time around, as Joy puts it, she's instrumental on the politics of the country as it's now? Is she likely to survive on this one? Will she go back to Baba for, sanitization or cleansing?
I think neither BBI nor any other process, political or otherwise, should be used to sanitize anyone who has committed any offense or crime against the people of Kenya, regardless of whoever it is, whether it's President Uhuru Kenyatta, PM Raila Odinga, or anyone. None of these processes, and that's why I do not agree with Atwoli when I saw in the media he's saying, save Waiguru for the sake of BBI. No. Waiguru has done something. And it is criminal.
Yeah.
She must bear responsibility like any other person. She must bear responsibility because this is about governance, accountability, and legal liability, and it's for the sake of the people of Kenya. If she has not, and these are just allegations, to bring her down and so on and so forth, I should hope that she has a robust defense strategy, both politically at the Senate and legally, precisely, so that she can defend herself openly. And in fact, she should thank God that now, instead of being held at ransom, here is an open public opportunity for her to defend herself away from those. Because I know that MCAs in many counties, including counties to which I'm very emotionally connected, like Nairobi and Vihiga, they all take, they hold governors at ransom. I know that much. But I also happen to know that in the very same counties I'm saying I'm emotionally connected to, you can rightly accuse governors of corruption and theft and plunder. So it is very good when these allegations, because it's not good when it stops at allegations. It is best when they are brought onto a platform where they are prosecuted openly, like in Senate and like in courts of law. For me, this as an opportunity for Waiguru and for her accused and for the people of Kenya.
Yeah. All right, we wait to see what will culminate from that, and we'll be here to update you on more. I mean, we can discuss politics for the longest of time, but it's only fair that we cross over to the next subject that we have. And in this case, the budget. And we are looking at an economy that is on the red, on the tail end, especially now that we are dealing with COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, what are your expectations, Joy?
I'm one of those people who, until the budget is really red, I treat everything almost like innuendo. But I have listened to the CS when he's given some interviews on other media houses, and some people who know a little bit more about this budget making process than I. One thing that is sure is that most pundits agree that it is a very enthusiastic or optimistic budget in a situation when the economy is greatly depressed.
Right.
So when I've listened to some of the commentators, they're asking the CS, are you sure you want to write a budget this big? Maybe it is time we start to learn how to cut our coat according to our cloth. And for that, I hope maybe he'll pull a surprise and give us much more realistic figures, as it were. Because one of the problems that we have had in the last few years is we have been writing a budget where over 50% of what we are budgeting for, we're expecting somebody else to bring the money in.
Right.
That has, it's even Simeha here is the head of a household, and I assist somebody to run a household. That's not a good way to live. Maybe this is an opportunity for us to hit the reset button and start being more realistic about our approach. The other thing is that we have seen in years past where a lot of our budget making process has been treated with shrouded, for lack of a better word. With the new constitution, we have had a lot more participation from the private sector, from parliament, from other players. So I'm hoping for a more balanced budget this year. And finally, in light of what COVID has brought, I'm hoping that we will see interventions that are more people-driven rather than mega projects. The previous years, we've had budgets that have really looked at mega projects, infrastructure and housing. This time around, I'm really looking forward to, let's put up a new hospital to deal with COVID, and then we release the other hospitals, because already our health systems were creaking. Now, surely, people are not even going to hospital because everything looks like it's infected with COVID. Maybe it's time to do like the Chinese. Now we have a COVID hospital with COVID doctors. Let's deal with the pandemic here, and we'll deal with other things here, such that it's more responsive to people's needs now. So I'm being very general because the specifics of it right now, I'm still hazy, but I'm really hoping that the CS today will be very, very people-centric and not mega project centric like we have seen in previous years.
What opportunities, Joseph Simeha, what opportunities does the CES have towards ensuring that at least, yes, whatever it is that is going to read today will be people-centric, especially looking at this situation whereby there's been tax relief already, courtesy of COVID-19. And, even worse is that on the previous years, we've seen that the tax that has been collected has not been able to sustain the economy. A clear indication that has drove us to a point of, incurring debt. So with this relief, with this relaxation, what does it speak of what will be in future or in this financial year that we're headed to?
Yeah, first of all, a disclaimer also that, what I share is not from the point of view of an economic analysis. For mine is political and governance analysis. And secondly, to say that, the budget isn't a secret anymore. It's been out there. It's been discussed openly. Even the figures, they are available. The only things that may be a bit of a surprise is the words in the speech that the CES will use to deliver. Yes, and what he will put emphasis on in his speech. But otherwise, the figures and the rationale, like the budget policy statement, the rationale behind those figures is already out there in the public.
Yeah.
What I'm hoping, however, just at a very simple level, what I'm hoping to see, however, is the seizing of the moment. As President Uhuru said, and I don't know whether he meant that COVID-19 also has brought us to this moment. I think COVID-19 has highlighted a moment, the need for us to press the reset button. That we live such a precarious life that we need to stop for a moment. Stop, I call it rat race. This rat race that we want to see showing highest numbers in this budget and so on. Stop the rat race, reset the button, involve many more people in the building of our economy. The shared prosperity that Joy was talking about earlier. Bring in many more people, rather than this rat race that involves so much borrowing from foreigners, so much so that we mortgage ourselves to foreigners and we will no longer talk of sovereignty. So I'm hoping for a balance between investing in taking advantage of this moment, and for me, investing in governance and political processes, serious governance and political processes that are about resetting our, I would call it failed political and governance system, as admitted, and between that and making people stay alive, because for people to get engaged in fixing their politics and governance, they have to be alive. So putting sufficient amounts of money, especially in small and micro businesses, in social investments and so on, to keep people alive, to keep people doing their bit in building the economy. And when I say people, I mean Kenyans. Primarily, it should be Kenyan, not foreign companies. And I'm not refusing that foreign companies should play a role in our economy. I'm just saying, for me, the public purse should primarily support Kenyans first, so that they play a role in building the economy as they fix their governance and political systems.
That was highly channeled. That was highly channeled on, of course, the Big Four agenda aspect of manufacturing, industrialization, but a clear indication that actually a majority would argue that maybe even so much money that was channeled towards seeing to it that the Big Four agenda is a success was probably a waste. I mean, how are we likely to achieve this moving forward?
Okay, the Big Four agenda is one thing that, if it's delivered, the people of Kenya will succeed. So will have benefit.
Are there any hopes of it being delivered as it now, based on what we witness now, and the time left for President Uhuru Kenyatta?
It can only be delivered if we get creative about it. So, for example, if we're waiting for government to put up all the housing that we need, that may not happen. But like Simeha has correctly pointed out, this is a time to hit a reset button. Maybe it is time for the government to look elsewhere and say, you know what, we're going to give you certain reliefs on land rates and land acquisition procedures. If you build some cookie cutter houses, we're going to give you a waiver on planning. For example, if you have got this particular type of house, so like Umoja Estate, so you can put up all this in this particular area, we'll give you certain waivers from the city, such that it can be achieved, but using a lot more public government partnerships, as well as just tweaking it a little bit. And there's some of the big projects that ideally still must use some form of donor funding, maybe it is time to look at more creative ways to deliver. But one thing that Semeka has said, the only way this economy is also going to pull itself up by the bootstraps is if the ordinary Kenyan is revived. So, for example, there's a time back we're talking about the proposed bailout for KQ. They're looking at what, 7 billion they were asking for. Yep. If you look at the average Kenyan businessman and you decide to give him a direct cash injection of, let's say, 100,000 shillings, his little shop in Kirinyaga Road will actually be revived and he can start trading in his mobile phone accessory business again with just that fuel injection. Look at 7 billion, 100,000, you're looking at affecting approximately, as in the dynamics is a whole lot more people than if you just look at saving one big industry or one big ticket. It's one of those things that right now we have to look at the bottom of the pyramid as being integral in keeping the top of the pyramid alive as well. Okay. So the Big Four agenda can be delivered, but we have to tweak how we'll do it. We can't just look at government to provide the money for everything. And government also in giving tax relief, we have seen the proposals to have some other taxes introduced. You cannot give with one hand and take away with another. At the end of the day, it crosses itself out. That's why I'm really hoping for more people-centric interventions that will take money back into ordinary Kenyans' pockets, because when we spend, we save our economy.
All right, interesting right there. One thing that remains constant is the borrowing appetite, which is pretty much unfortunate. I don't even think I want us to delve deep into that as at now, looking at the fact that, yes, there's been a relief on matters tax, a clear indication that maybe we're going to run to more and more debt. The CS saying that we'll focus on more of concessional loans as opposed to commercial loans. So I think it's important that we take a breather. We'll come back, react to that briefly as we cross over to the next subject, which will be more or less of judiciary versus the executive. After this break, we'll be back with more. Welcome back to Morning Cafe, and we are at that level of the state of the nation or state affairs. We take a look at stories that have been making headlines across the throughout the week. We've touched on matters of the budget, and of course we'll be following up on that to update you later. We've also touched on matters politics right here in the country, and now we cross over, but not before we answer this question actually, the borrowing appetite. We have Joseph Simeha, who's a political analyst, and also Joy Mdivo, advocate and also analyst on matters of politics and governance. So we were discussing the issue to do with the budget, but we cannot leave this issue before we touch on this aspect of the borrowing appetite that we witnessed today. And now, of course, CS Ukur Yatani is saying that the government will take a direction where we'll focus more on concessional loans as opposed to commercial, which has been the norm for the longest of time. A clear indication that, yes, we are taking loans that we are supposed to pay, in long-term processes. And one would argue then what is left for the next of governments that will be coming in? Is it the common thing that we see with our leadership where, you come in, you cause trouble, knowing very well that in 2-3 years' time, you will not be at the helm? So, Joy, what do we do? Well, let's first of all start with Joseph. What do we do about this aspect of, borrowing? In as much as we say it's healthy, it is okay to borrow, it is clear that we're not able to service the debt. Joseph, can you hear me? Do we have Joy? Joy? I'm afraid that we're having a bit of a technical hitch there. Are we there?
Yes.
Joseph and Joy, good. All right, the borrowing appetite. You go first, and then we'll come to Joseph.
This has been a concern for a long time with many of the pundits, because every time you reach your borrowing ceiling and there's the need to go and raise the ceiling further, for the normal Mwananchi, it is a concern. Why? Because it means any children that I have now are indebted before they even start. And I'm a believer in the Bible, and there's something that says that the borrower will always be the slave of the lender. It's a way of emancipating us right now, but beholding us for the rest of until when we pay the loans off. And I like that now we are going more for concessionary loans than commercial loans, because commercial loans are easy to get, easy to secure, but they're very expensive. Right. And so they make, before you realize the benefit of whatever you have invested in, it takes a long time because the repayment cripples you from doing other things for the time being. So I am glad that there is that shift, that change in going more for concessionary loans. But also let's realize that right now across the world, the economic strategists are telling us we are headed not just for a recession, but for a depression after this, the last 6 months of COVID. And so money may not be as readily available, and what is available may be more expensive. So I know a few grants have been promised in fighting this COVID and in helping with the recovery stimulus. But I would that we are more careful and more mindful of what we are borrowing in this crisis season, so that it's not crippling us further when it comes to, let's say, the next 10 years of development, when we've got too much to carry. But right now, the balance is very delicate. Our rating is teetering on dangerous. So this, like Simeka said, I like that word, the reset button. Some of these habits that we have had, this is a chance for us to say, you know what, let's just do away with it. Let's look at Africa more for trade. Let's look at Africa more for what we need, and just start weaning ourselves off this over-reliance on China and on the West. Maybe it is time not just to look to East, to look inward, to look into Africa.
All right. Okay, thank you. I think let's lock that as we await what will play out in the course of the day. And let's cross over to you, Joseph Simeha. And in this moment, let's discuss the bad blood that we witnessed between the judiciary and the executive. Much as we would not want to trace it back to the nullification of elections that played out, and the warning shots and fire that were fired on the judiciary, that what you will know that you do not know. Do you suppose then that these are healthy battles that we are witnessing today between the arms of government?
in terms of the responsibilities that the Constitution places on the various arms of government, various state officers and various public officers, there cannot be any excuse for any of them to fail to discharge this responsibility. Even as we grapple with bigger problems, even as we grapple with the bigger challenges that we're saying, let's reset the button, let's take advantage of the moment, the Constitution and the laws of the Republic of Kenya are still in force. So for me, whether Kenyatta likes Maraga or not, whether Maraga likes Kenyatta or not, it's not a favor they are doing each other. It's not about good blood or bad blood. It's not about their chemistry. It's about a duty they have not to each other. Primarily is to us, to all of us.
Right.
So even if Uhuru Kenyatta is unhappy with Maraga in whatever way, even if Maraga is unhappy with Uhuru in whatever way, they must look at this Constitution and see what it says about what we must do. And if it says we must meet every month, they have no choice.
Yeah.
Even if they hate each other, it's okay. That's their private business. They don't even have to love each other, by the way. But they must do what this Constitution says and the laws of Kenya, and that's the biggest failure of several state and public offices, including the office of the AG. In my opinion, his coming in did not help matters at all. He should be the one that steers the ship towards enabling public and state offices to deliver on the rule of law and access to justice. And instead, he also takes the political angle. So for me, I fault them, regardless of what has happened in the past, that we can talk to each other with this reset button thing, with this taking advantage of the moment. Yes, we need to talk to each other. But for now, as we talk, do we have any obligations? Yes, we do. We must meet those obligations, and they are failing. I feel President Kenyatta's office has failed purely on the basis of the Constitution and the law, nothing else. I feel the Attorney General's office has failed. I feel very disheartened when I hear Maraga say he has tried his best to seek for an appointment to discuss these matters, and he hasn't got it. If that is true, it's a tragedy for the nation.
All right, Joy, whatever it is that has caused this is clearly, affecting the aspect of constitutionalism and, the process of us attaining justice. I mean, what then should we do to ensure that this is addressed amicably? Because reality is that the two are cognizant of what is expected of them in the Constitution, but they still choose to probably go against it.
If you read chapter 10 of the Constitution, that's the one that talks about the judiciary. It sets up an independent constitutional commission called the Judicial Service Commission. Now, these judges that were given to the president for nomination went through a vetting process before their names were suggested. There are over 700 people who applied for these jobs. 41 are the ones who were picked. In the Judicial Service Commission, you have the Attorney General who sits there as a member. You've got a member from the public service who represents the interests of the government, and you've got two other members of the public who sit. So those are completely non-lawyers, non-judges. They're sort of they are the countermeasure to having a panel that is full of, let's say, judges in this particular context. And so the opportunity to raise the issues that the president is concerned about was there through his representatives, the Attorney General being one of them. So what is happening now? If there is information that has come to light. Unfortunately, judges have security of tenure. You cannot tell them, you know what, you don't like you now, just go ahead and go home. There is a process of removing judges. If the president is not happy with some of the nominees, the trigger is to force the process then to get them out to begin. Now, there has been concerns with what happened with DCJ Mwilu, that maybe the process will start and get stalled and we'll be stuck with these judges moving forward. But be that as it may, some of the concerns that the president is raising are grave. The judiciary has a lot of corruption. The judiciary has failed Kenyans in many other ways. But here now I join issue with Semeka. Be that as it may, there are 47 million Kenyans who are looking at this one institution as the last bastion of protection of our rights between the anarchy and between tyranny. So between the presidency and between the people, the judiciary stands to give us all an assurance that we have an arbiter. For that reason alone, the judiciary cannot be any further diminished. So I would urge both gentlemen, this is a moment for you to also rise. The same way the president said it's a constitutional moment. This is the time to say, you know what, this impasse has gone on long enough, because it's not just these two courts, because they're going to the environment court and they're going to the court of employment. It's not just those two courts. There are judges who are waiting to be appointed to go into the regular high court. There are magistrates who are waiting to be hired. The Supreme Court as well.
Don't you think that
this impasse is blocking a lot more than just the 41? Sorry, Linda.
All right, Simiha, don't you think that the president then again would be justified if at all the names presented to him have got questionable integrity to proceed and say, you know, halt these appointments as of now? Is it the aspect of him halting or the aspect of him taking long to address this?
Maybe just in case you missed what Joyce said, the president, and if you like, the entire executive had that opportunity because the evidence, if we go by what he's saying, came their way through the work of the intelligence, which is under the executive, which is part of the, which is under the president. So they had an opportunity before these names were forwarded for nomination. They had an opportunity. But guess what? Fine. That may be true what they're saying. To me, it is not too late. Rather than sacrifice everything because of 4, 5, 6, I don't know how many, why don't they have the president appoint these judges? There's nothing in the constitution or the law that says that you cannot commence the process of removing a judge after 1 month in employment. There's nothing that stops. Why don't they go along with the constitutional requirement of appointing these judges to avert the larger tragedy of a travesty of justice in Kenya by failing to appoint these judges, as opposed to the concerns, which I believe, if they're true, very legitimate. And yes, we have to deal with corrupt judges and so on. I absolutely agree.
All right.
Why not put these judges and then provide this evidence and insist that judicial, lodge complaints so that the Judicial Service Commission, even if it's after 1 month, can begin a process, a disciplinary process, a process of removing these judges from office. And at that point, actually, that evidence can come into the public domain because, again, remember, they are prosecuting this behind closed doors because right now, say fairness does not allow them to make those allegations public. But if they were to subject these judges to a process, now every one of us who are wondering what is happening will get to know what the president has found out about these judges. So I think they should just not hold the country, millions and millions of Kenyans at ransom because of the 5, 6. Have you ever heard that it is better to let one criminal go than to hang 100 innocent people? If that one criminal is among the 101, you'd rather let that one criminal go for now so that you avoid hurting the 100, and then you can go for that one criminal later.
All right, lastly on this one, we saw a tough-talking Attorney General, that is Paul Kihara, and do you suppose then, of course, speaking on behalf of the executive, do you suppose that would paint a picture of a president who's willing to go a little bit lower in addressing this particular issue? I mean, the way we would have expected amicably to ensure that at least the people of Kenya are guaranteed of justice. Joy.
The Attorney General sits in the Judicial Service Commission, and he was part of the decision to forward these 41 names. But what we saw from him the other day was him speaking now on behalf of his appointing authority, who is the president. At the same time, the Attorney General is the titular head of the bar. So he sits at an apex of quite a few mountains meet at the Attorney General as their peak. So he straddles a very difficult and a very tight rope. In this particular situation, I think he was trying to communicate the fact that it was not right that this was being played out in the public gallery, and some of the issues were still in court, because even the 41 judges, there is a court order that says the president should go ahead and appoint them. And that is the decision that the Attorney General has appealed against. So it's still being played out in court and is being played out in private. What I would wish that the Attorney General would do, he was the president of the Court of Appeal. He has worked with Judge Maraga as a colleague, and he's a gentleman who is well-versed in the workings of the government. I would that he would rise to the challenge and speak with his with His Excellency, speak with Judge Maraga, and be the arbiter here, because he's the one who straddles both worlds. But his speech was trying to clear up the air, didn't quite do a very good job of it. But it shows me that, okay, Judge Maraga's outburst, for lack of a better word, has elicited a response. Let them use this time to make sure it doesn't happen again, because it's been 7 months since these names were gazetted, were nominated. Surely it's a long enough time. Even if it was a tribunal, by now would have had a resolution. We need to come unstuck.
Let me jump in and tell you offer you what I think is a quick explanation.
Yeah.
I think it's the male ego thing. If you have ever watched men driving on the highway.
Oh, really? That's so unfortunate for a country.
Yeah, one overtakes the other. They don't even know each other. They have no idea who's in that car.
Right.
And the one who's being overtaken thinks, who the hell are you? Who are you to overtake me? And they do the rest. They don't know each other. The one doesn't know where the other one is going, and so there's a bit of an ego in this. Yes, what the AG was faulting about playing to the public gallery is correct. But what was he also doing? He's doing exactly the same. He's also saying, who do you think you are? We can also embarrass you.
Yeah.
We can call you out in public. Rather than do exactly what Joy is saying, now, call each other, give each other a call and say, can we sit and talk? Can we stop talking in public?
Right.
We can sit up all this matter. It's like men in traffic, actually.
Clearly, which is so unfortunate for a nation. Speaking of which, CJ David Maraga acknowledging that this in a huge way has altered the activities of the courts, derailing, the judgments that are supposed to be presided over. And key of the cases that would probably suffer the wrath of this is on the aspect of police brutality. A majority of these issues will land in courts and are expected to be deliberated on. Today, we are living in a world where, they say that police brutality is on the rise. Let's focus on home. Let's overlook what happened, with George Floyd and all that. And we've had a series of, demonstrations castigating what, of course, is termed as police brutality and violence. And the argument is that we've had many cases of people being killed by police at this time of Corona, as opposed to being killed by Corona itself. Joy, what do you make of this?
It's a tragedy when this happens, but I thank God that part of what we did with our new constitution is that we set up IPOA. And most of these matters have been brought to the attention of IPOA. And I'm hoping that they will be courageous enough to sort of bring these matters to a fore. And you're right, when the courts are not functioning as efficiently, then matters take too long to prosecute. Like it was just the other day when we were having a decision about the prosecution of Willie Kimani. The murder happened, 3 years ago? Yeah. So you can see how slowly the wheels of justice grind. So in this particular situation, having a strong judiciary that delivers on time is quite important. And part of the reason why we need to have a robust Judicial Service Commission is because we need more infrastructure in terms of more court buildings, but we also need more judicial officers to sit in those court buildings. And at the same time, we have to develop, and that now the executive, the prison system has to be more efficient as well, so that we've got enough remand space, enough space for inmates, because right now the entire criminal justice system is actually a human rights violation, for lack of a better word. But hopefully moving forward, we will see some reform in this area as well, on how we sentence people, how we hold people to account, and especially those who are in positions of power, how we discipline our disciplined forces such that they do what they're supposed to do, that is protect the populace rather than being agents of terror themselves.
All right. Coming to you, Joseph Simeham, the Never Again protests staged by Kenyans. Do you think that would ultimately give us a solution to this? Because it's not the first time that we are witnessing the same.
Yes. I mean, we've had a George Floyd moment permanently playing out in Kenya from colonial days throughout the independence and to the moment it's happening, police brutality, police killings, subjudicial executions, and so on and so forth. Yes, the participation of citizens, direct participation of citizens is extremely important. You see, if you watch what's happening around the world, if I may compare us to the rest of the world, people are beginning to do something, even if for now it's cosmetic, but authorities are beginning to do things because citizens have come out openly to express their anger, to participate and show that if you do not do something, there are things we will, including people saying that we will burn down the place, we will burn down our own cities. If you cannot listen to us and reform, yes, the policing system. So for us here in Kenya, that George Floyd moment will not end unless we also we press the reset button on security and policing. Yes, the Constitution set up the National Police Service Commission. It also set up IPOA, but these bodies were neutered almost immediately they were established. They do not have the capacity to do their work because they were immediately neutered. And then one more thing that in my opinion, until and unless we separate law and order policing from criminal investigations, that we have a strong, independent organization responsible for criminal investigations so that it can also go after police like the one who put the neck on George Floyd, like the ones who do that in this country every day, tying a woman behind a motorbike and pulling her on the ground, literally attempting to murder that woman. Because that woman will be told, go and report. Report where? Police station.
Right. And then again, threats come along with that, so that you find some of these cases or most of these cases vanishing in thin air. And we have lots of reports of untold stories, or if the stories are told, then the threats leveled on the family members of these people, they choose to withdraw their cases. Joy, where does it place us in the quest of justice and in the eventually ensuring that we get the policemen to do what they're rightfully paid to do, that is protect the common mwananchi?
If you look at the pillar principles of policing on which our regular police service is supposed to be premised on, policing is supposed to be a collaboration between the community and the police service. You see, like in Scandinavian countries, policemen carry nothing more than a little rungu. They never carry firearms. And policemen, when they come into a scene, the first thing they try to do is to de-escalate the situation and bring everybody to a place where they can rationally discuss a matter. They aim to finish it there and then. What we have is, like Simeka said earlier, it's a hangover from the colonial era, where the likuru, the policeman, was using the crown to force the people to subject themselves to the ruling of whoever was in charge at that time, was the colonialists. And so policemen still have that mentality when they come into a situation that they are a law unto themselves. And that's why you see this overreacting in situations. So we changed the name from police force to police service, but the mentality of our policemen has yet to change. And the community also has yet to understand their role in helping the police to achieve their mandate. So for example, the person who took the video of the woman being dragged by the motorbike, now that person was being a community police officer as well. That's what we need, where the members of the public hold the police service to account. Now I agree IPOA has been watered down in its efficacy somewhat, but I wish that they would just keep plodding on, because we've seen with sufficient pressure, like we did with the Willy Kimani case, when you put sufficient pressure, eventually something comes out. Happen. And once the police realize that they're not getting away with this as often as they used to, once they realize that Mukubwa is not defending them as much as he used to, the policeman will take personal responsibility to be of service to the individual. We saw the president awarding the woman, the female policeman who helped the woman during the first day of curfew. We should see more of that, because that's a police service. They're not a force. They should be a service.
Okay. Well, thank you for reminding us the name Likuru, Likuru.
Likuru.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. But it's only fair that we balance this conversation. And Joseph Simeha, coming to you, what do you suppose could be, instigating or causing this rage, animosity from our very own policemen? I mean, as we would say, they are human beings before they are policemen. But with the rising number of cases being reported, what really has gone wrong with the police service?
It has always been wrong. It hasn't just gone wrong. It has always been wrong. It is the ideology of policing in Kenya. It was about enforcement. It has never changed. The police person is trained to enforce, to protect the state against the citizen. Yet the state is for the service of the citizen. So therefore the state is the citizen's state. Who owns the state? It should be the citizens. But do you think police officers interpret it that way? No. Who owns the state is those in power. They need protection from these citizens. So it has all wrong. It's about the ideology of policing. We have to change our doctrine of security and policing. It's part of the reset, is what I'm hoping also comes out as part of the BBI recommendations for people to discuss. How do we use this moment to press the reset button on our ideology of security and policing, so that we put people at the center of it? Because whose security are we looking for? It's ours. So we have a duty to protect the police officer, to work with the police officer, to inform the police officer. But do we have that relationship right now? No, we don't. No, we don't. We're trending. So the ideology, unless it changes, it doesn't matter who the head is. That ideology has to change. And then Kenya will begin to see a policing and security system where the people are proud of as their own system, where people protect police officers.
Joy, as they would say, it's a bitter police force, a broke one for that matter. You know, a force that does not have the best of life, and they sort of feel like, you know, they've been neglected, hence pouring this rage on the common mwananchi. What can we do to address this? I mean, constantly we've heard that the police force is going to be, you know, looked into, you know, the issues that they still struggle with are going to be addressed, but it's evident that this is not happening.
No, we have to give credit where it's due. We have seen a lot of police reform. I mean, I've been in this country long enough, at the risk of exposing my ears, to the days when you could see policemen living in serious squalor. Right now, seeing a police car driving by is not a strange thing. Once upon a time, that was unheard of. In my village back in Ebukura, if you called for a policeman, he probably would arrive riding on the back of somebody's bicycle. It was deplorable. Now you can see some improvement in the fate of the policemen. However, what you have said is very critical. That there are some places where the police are still grossly underfunded. The training of our policemen is also still steeped in the old ideology, such that you can have new young policemen, but they are more brutal even than the ones that they have found in the police force. Uraia is kicked out of them until when they come out, they forget that Raia is actually their mother, their father, their brother, their sister. So the reform cannot just be a change in uniform. And maybe what has started in the Ministry of Interior needs to be followed through, so that we don't get to a place where the policemen remain an enemy of the people. There was also the marrying of the police force, then the GSU, the AP, and all of them coming under the Inspector General. That was not very seamlessly handled. And so there are some of those still, you know, old grudges between the APs who felt that the others looked down on them, the GSU who felt that they were the strongest arm of in the enforcement. So some of those things, like, let me borrow Simeka's, the egos are still rubbing on each other. That's why you find the DCI is supposed to work under the IG, but he wants to stand up like his own man. Some of those things are teething problems. Maybe with time we will settle. But I agree with you, more resources need to go to our police force, our police service, and better training needs to also go into the police service, and continuous training, especially in human rights matters. Continuous training.
Okay. Yes, political analyst Joy Mdivo and Joseph Zimeha, thank you so much for the great insights that you've given to us this morning. Looking forward for more sessions with the two of you. It was great having you, and that's where we lock it on state affairs as we cross over to a different segment altogether on matters lifestyle. Thank you so much for keeping me company. We take a short breather and we'll be right back with much more. All right, so welcome back to Morning Cafe. Time for that lifestyle discussion. And today we're all about beautiful nails. I mean, every other lady will tell you that sometimes, you know, it's key to have the best of nails. First of all, your nails well done. I mean, it gives you the confidence. You match up into a room, into a meeting, and you'll be like, you want everybody to check on that nail. So it's important that you take care of your nails, whether you're doing, you know, the artificial ones or your very own nails. And on set today, we have Fabian Njukia, Prince Fabian Njukia, who's joining us. He is the owner of Fabian Nails. He'll take us through, I know, a brief session on how best we can take good care of our nails. He's a well-kept. I was hoping that we'll pull a practical today. What happened? I do not see anything, any nail products on board.
Yeah, I'm sorry we were not able to carry the entire salon.
No, it's okay. What's important is the information that you're going to give us.
Yeah.
You were supposed to carry the entire salon if you were to do a practical.
If we were to do an entire practical, to take an entire salon.
All right, well and good. So that means there's so much that we need to learn on matters nail care. And the first question then would be, how do you take care of your nails at home, especially right now that everyone is quarantined? And you know, personally, I have had so much fear of going to my, you know, nail technician because of the COVID-19 issue and all that. So there's that need and urge to learn how to do it at home.
When at home, right now, I would say the best way is to keep them short, oil them, if you have cuticle oil. At the same time, you can always keep on filing them, because if they are longer than they're supposed to be, they will break. Right. And because you're getting involved in that kitchen work at home, they can break easily. That is the best way, just keeping them short, keeping them clean. There is nothing much you can do about it. If you can't go to the salon to do the treatments, there's nothing much you can do at home, just keeping them short. But if you have to go to salon and still you're still working at home and you're staying at home, those who are doing so, the best way to do it is to do short nails, because they will serve you longer, and at the same time they will not break easily. And yeah, that's the best way, I would say.
All right, this minus nail polish, or now that's optional?
If you have to do nail polish, there are people who do nail polish at home.
Right.
The best I recommend is that always use a base coat, and a good quality one. If you don't use a base coat, then you apply a colored polish on your nails. They will discolor your nail at maybe in a period of like 4 weeks.
Right.
Your nails will discolor, and they will start, the color of the polish will get into the nail, and they will weaken the nail, they will break them. So at the end of the day, you'll have weaker nails than you had before. Yeah.
All right, you talk of nail processes that one, of course, would go for from a technician or a specialist for that matter. Then we'd want to know what could be the basics, you know, of you know, proper process of nail polishing or nail care, you know, as you proceed to this nail specialist, because most of the times we go there green, we have no idea what someone is doing on you. Sometimes they end up messing your enamel even more.
It's a journey. Before you locate the right person, sometimes it takes time. Because some people are not doing it out of passion. They are doing it for the money. And that is not the reason, because it should be the vision first and love for the work you're doing, and then money comes. Money is a reward for me. And I would say the best way to know, if they serve you for like a period of the first time, the second time, you'll be able to know. The best way, because you will see how products react, because sometimes they will use products that will react with their nails. If you find that there are people who will tell you, I started doing gel polish, and then after 1 month my nails were stronger, now they are weak. So there is something that was used that reacted with the nail of the client. And right there you will know this is not the right place. So I would say it is not written anywhere that this is the right person.
And I'll tell you the realest thing ever, and I'm sure most of the ladies will resonate with this, and actually men, because nowadays we have men doing you know, nail care and all that. I mean, you go to like 50 of the nail technicians and you still experience the same problem. Sometimes you even have to part with so much money just because you think, okay, well, maybe so much money means good products. I mean, at what point then do you get to know that, now that you said it's quite a process?
So for me, I would say right now we have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have social media.
Right.
So social media for us, it's where our CV is. So you go there, like for us, we always tag our clients.
Right.
So we are not posting pictures that are not ours. We are not showing you what we don't do. We will always post our work, post the process. We have even the YouTube, we are doing a bit of the process so that now you'll be able to see what we do.
Right.
And then if you can interact even with our clients, you'll be able to see what they say, the report they give, how long do our nails last on them, all that kind of report. There are people who we have served for more than a year now, and their nails are still intact. And they service their nails every single month.
All right, so let's talk about food briefly. Sometimes you're told, you know, if you need to have good hair, then you need to eat well. If you need to have your skin, you know, flawless, you need to eat well. You know, some of the key things that we value the most in, you know, anything to do with our bodies, hair, the skin, the nails, and all that. So are there specific foods that would be good for someone in the event that they want to have strong and well animated nails?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Sometimes nails are inherited. You inherit your nails from your mother, your father, or someone from your lineage.
Right.
So sometimes it's not about what you eat. There are people who have weak nails since they were young. So, and no matter what they do, they will not become strong. There is that notion that henna makes nails strong.
Yes, hold it right there. So all this while we've been told lies, because
lies.
henna makes nails strong. Then you go to this place and then you're told, oh, there's the base that is normally used to strengthen your nails, and you know, now they won't be breaking anymore. So all these are typical lies?
No, they are not typical lies.
All right.
For henna, I would say it's a lie.
Okay.
But there are products that are there, but they don't work for everyone. So for henna, what happens with henna, for it to stick to the nail, it has to, like, how do you call that thing? It's like the way acid can fall on a ground.
Yes.
It will have to penetrate.
To burn and penetrate
inside. So if you have to file it, you'll see like dust coming off the nail.
Okay.
So the nail is much weaker. And those people who even have henna, they don't have longer nails, yet they want to enjoy long nails. So henna, and per se, I would say some things work for some people, but not for everyone. So, but the biggest majority, they don't work.
Right.
It doesn't work. Let's say it's just for beauty. And then there is that simple one lie that has been sold for a long time. So people think, but no one can show you the results of that. Yeah.
All right. So I've constantly been told, you know, dip your nails on paraffin, dip, you know, just pour a bit of wax on it, hot wax, you know, on your nails, and this will make it stronger. So you clearly say that you don't have to have any, you know, kind of meal that will help you strengthen your nails, right?
The nail grows from, it is part of your bones and it's part of your body.
So the calcium factor?
A factor is always there.
All right.
But for the dipping stuff, they work for a while.
Okay.
It is not for them to be strong or for them to look the way they will look. You have to continue with that process every now and then. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Now that you mentioned things to do with you know, long nails, we all crave for that. If not long, at least you know, just medium and looking good and well polished for that matter. So then most of us will resort to, you know, seeking services that would do with acrylics, you know, artificial nails, T-corns, name them.
Yeah.
Is there anything good or bad about having these artificial nails?
No. All I can say is get the right person.
Okay.
For me, it's like going to hospital. Because it is therapeutic at the same time. It has to, taking care of your nails it is a journey.
Okay.
So, and one thing I find people doing is hopping from one nail tech to another nail tech. Maintain one nail tech. As long as this nail tech is growing and they are growing their skill and they're increasing in their knowledge. For like people they have been alive for a very long time. Acrylics, they don't last. Acrylics, they don't stick. They hurt your nails. They don't. The way you remove them matters a lot. There are people who just remove them at home, and that way they destroy the nail, they weaken the nail. So at the end of the day, they will be like, oh, these things destroyed my nails. It was not so. For the stick-ons, they don't. It all depends with the product used. Mostly the glue.
Right.
Some glue react with the nail, and at the end of the day, the moment you're removing them, you'll find that my nails are yellow. Why is it? What is it happening?
Right.
So the glue that was used reacted with your nail.
With the nail.
Yeah.
And when you say that, then can you confidently assure your client that they need not to worry about the long-term effects of using, first of all, of course, the acrylics and all. I remember even with Cutex, before we had gel nail polishes, before we had the acrylics and everything, constantly you would be told, it's okay, once you've put Cutex, just give it like 2-3 weeks, then remove it, have your nail relaxing for a week, then go back to it and everything. So do we have long-term effects of this?
If you use the right products, there is no long-term effect. The moment you will stop, you'll still continue to enjoy your nails. But if you use products that react with your nails, at some point, they will become weaker. And the more people grow, they are aging, the more their nails become weaker.
Right.
So if they used bad products, at the end of time and as they age, you find that their nails are like papers.
Tell us the science of this, because I want to believe, this is what I want to believe, and I believe very many people believe so, that nail grows off. So once this grows and it's cut, so literally whatever it is that is coming out should be as fresh as possible. So why is it that one should worry about the kind of products that they use?
Because some products react the nail from its root.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
That is the reason. So it is something that can destroy your nail from the root. You'll find that there are people who will, the product that were used, and they reacted with the nail and now it is breaking. So for like 6 months, even the nail that is growing, it is still breaking because the effect is there.
Okay.
It affected even the root. Yeah.
All right. Because then we do not have the blessings of knowing which are the right products or which are the wrong products for that matter. Then what would I want to ask? The routine, normal routine of one taking care of their nails. Would you take us through that briefly?
The normal routine at home?
Yeah, at home or anywhere. I mean, just the routine where, again, I would go and sit down at a technician and I know that they're doing the right thing. Because I hate this filing aspect for sure. Let me tell you something. Sometimes they will file and you find them, chipping off some of your skin on the lower bit and everything. So how best can this be handled? So when I sit down, I know that this is being done well. It's the same thing that I would do at home, and I'll still come out of this place feeling comfortable and looking good.
If you don't feel, it is a bit of tricky to know. Assuming at first the first person you met did a bad job, then he sets the standard of the rest. So not unless you meet the right person, then it will be a bit tricky for you to know.
Right.
So first of all, you'll know, because you will feel your nails. You feel whether you feel pain, you feel whether they are cutting, when they are cutting the cuticles, there is a bit of pain.
Right.
Should not be a painful process at all.
Okay.
And some people will tell you, I've been feeling pain all along. It should not be painful. It is like a therapy thing. You should go there, enjoy, and then come out and just, because the process, my process and someone's process is a bit different, but the end result is the same.
It's the same.
Yeah.
All right. Time of COVID-19, we're here.
Yeah.
And like I said, I am literally scared of going to the nail technician because of, reasons well known. What are you guys doing as of now, and how are you balancing this, and how are you assuring your clients that this is it, and what also are you doing to ensure that you abide by the measures that have been put by the government?
First of all, we are taking all the measures by Ministry of Health. We are fumigating the place every morning. We are sanitizing our tables, sanitizing everything. Second thing, we are taking appointments. You just come, we take like 2 clients at a time. You don't come with your friends, you come alone. We don't offer magazines, we just maintain, we use gloves, we use masks, we sanitize everything. So for us, it's more of making sure that no point of contact, but only our hands. But at that point, we have gloves. Yeah.
All right. So as time goes by, this process has evolved. New techniques come on board and everything. How do you ensure that you keep up to speed on the changes that we witness today on matters nails. I mean, we never had gel nail polishes. Today, they have, of course, overcrowded the market, or they're flowing in the market. Probably something else will come on board in years to come. How do you keep up with the market?
I would say first is YouTube for us. You have to keep up with the trends that are going on. You have to practice every single day. I keep on learning a new thing every single day, not for purposes of learning to do, but for learning to advance my knowledge so that I can have a wide range of knowledge. Because every day fashion is changing, and tomorrow something new will come, and you have to move with change.
All right, so another thing then would be, we rarely think of taking care of our nails. You know, there's some people who are like, okay, well, my nails are okay, and that's just it. I'll take a shower, I'll moisturize myself, the entire body, and that's just it. What is the essence and what is the importance of taking that special care of one's nails, apart from the fact that you want them to look good?
First of all, it's part of your dressing. It completes who you are in terms of how you dress. Second thing, it boosts your confidence. I've seen people who just come for that process, and once they are done, you will see even them talking with their fingers. So there's something that it's like I would say it's the way you can dress something, you wear something nice. You will the same feeling comes on. You want everybody to know. You want there is the way you don't even hide your fingers. Like, you know, there are some people when they are short, they just talk with their hands folded. So for me, I would say it boosts even your confidence. Even when you meet a person, the first thing they see, nails comes out first. It's among the first things. The hair, your nails, they matter a lot. So it also boosts your image. All
right. Okay, so as time goes by, again, we also have different types, like we have rightfully put it. Are there times when you would recommend something for someone, for an occasion, for a moment, for office wear and everything, and how then do you get to balance and blend that with the attires that one would wear on a day-to-day basis?
Fashion is evolving so fast. Even offices are changing things. So as we are now, even weddings, people are doing wearing African attires. And when they wear those African attire, it doesn't even matter the kind of nails they put on. So it doesn't matter. But don't go too much, because everybody understands their line of work and their routine. So you can't put on nails that will not go with your routine.
All right.
So every single day, you know, this is what I do, this is what I wear, this is how I need to, this is what I need to have.
Playing with colors and designs is one thing that, you know, a lot of people fail on. So when clients come to you, do they always come with a fixed mind that I want this color? And in the event it's that way, are there times you've been forced to convince them otherwise, that, you know what, if you try this, it would work magic?
This is what I do. I always, if it is a new client, those who I'm used to, it's a bit different. But if it is a new client, I don't know what you love, your colors, your taste. So I always ask you, because ladies always have that gallery of
safe color. Yes.
They always have colors in their phone. So I want to know what you have, what you love. So I would engage you first, and then I will be able to understand you, because I've done it for a while. So if we have a conversation of 10 minutes, then I will know this is the best for you. This is what you love. So I will always make sure that you are involved in what I'm doing. I will not give you what I love. I'll give you what you love, but I'll do it to the best.
Okay, so does age matter in this case? Because I know for men it's clear, and that's it. At least for you people, we know. Does age then matter? Because nowadays I want to walk into a salon or I want to walk into a nail, parlor, and I walk in with my little girl and we have our nails done and everything. Does then the aspect of age play a role in how, one, you do your nails, and second, the colors that you use?
Age matters. It comes naturally. It's not something, it's what you request. But you'll find that people who are between the age of 18 to 30, 30 to 35, 35 going onwards, they request totally different things. Right. And it is by default. You find that people who are certain this age, they will ask for this color, they will ask for this length, they will ask for this shape. Like for the young people, you find that they are doing more of ballerina, that coffin stuff. But for the aged one, they will say, give us a squovo. So it is something that comes naturally. And before they got to that age, you find that they were doing those long nails and ballerina stuff. Yeah. But they stop. It comes naturally.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, the hands and the legs.
Yeah.
Or maybe the toes and, looking at the fingers of, like on your hands. Any difference in how you take care of them?
Your feet are a bit different because they are not more exposed.
Right.
But one thing I always say, people try to do stick-ons on your feet.
Okay.
They're not supposed to do that because the moment they do that and then they wear closed shoes and they sweat because the feet sweat, there will be the interaction between the sweat and the glue of the stick-on, and there will be fungal infection. You find that people lose their fingers, their toe nails. Yeah.
It gets to that point?
Yeah, it gets to that point because of the infections. Yeah.
So, but then how you handle the legs, you say is not as hard or as radical as the way you would handle the hands?
Yeah.
Why is it so? To me, I would have thought otherwise. Or deal with my legs proper, or deal with my feet proper, as opposed to my hands.
Because they are not more exposed.
Okay.
Not unless for the pedicure, for the pedicure, softening the feet. That one because maybe someone is wearing more of an open shoe.
Yeah.
But that one is once in a month. For your fingers, you're still working with them. That's why they are at danger of being destroyed. Okay. But your feet are always safe. They're doing nothing, just walking.
Right.
Yeah.
There are times I march into a nail parlor and I am pretty much in a hurry. But interestingly, that you guys will always insist on, extending the service all the way to my hands, a massage, sometimes a scrub, sometimes proper oiling.
Yeah.
Why? Is it that necessary?
We always say one thing, when you're coming to us, don't come in a rush.
Okay.
Yeah, the reason we want to do that, we want to leave an impact. There's some impression we want to leave.
So this is just an after service and it's not really necessary. Is there a way that I can match there and we remove this with say acetone, we let loose of this and then we just go straight to polishing and that's it?
No, you can't go straight to polishing.
Why?
Because it will not last. There is a process of preparation.
Okay.
What matters most, one of the things that matters most is nail prep.
All right.
If that one fails, the entire process will not work. For that moment, you will have your polish.
Good, yes.
But in the next 1 or 2 days, it will just peel off. Yeah.
All right. So
nail prep matters a lot. It solves 90% of the mistakes that many people make. Yeah.
Okay, so what is this one key thing that you'd want to tell the viewer who's watching you at home today that is very important about nail care, general nail care for that matter, even before it gets to that point where you have to put, artificial nails and even the polish and everything?
I would say the most important thing, your nails determines your hygiene. I can look at your nails and I'm like, this is you.
Right.
They talk a lot about you. And even ladies, the interaction between a lady and a man, the first thing a man will see, it's nails.
Right.
It's your hair.
Right.
But when it comes to your nails, if you have to keep them long, make sure that they are clean because nails can have a lot of dirt.
Right.
And if you keep them long, always keep on washing them, moisturizing them. Yeah.
All right. Speaking of keeping them long, now before we go, sometimes you find that we put very long nails, artificial nails.
Yeah.
Is that the best as a nail technician you would advise for anyone? I know it's preference. I know it's what one prefers, but genuinely, is it always the best option that there is in the market? I know there are.
I would say, us nail techs, we love long nails.
Okay.
Because we find them glamorous. It is the best at a certain, depending with your daily lifestyle activities.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you are more into doing more manual work, keep them short. Don't try to do them long because one thing, the weight shift to the top and then now they become vulnerable to break.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then you will destroy the nails that you had. So it's not always good to have them long. But if your schedule it's okay for you to keep them long. I'm okay with it.
And sometimes we choose to keep them long for ages. You find that someone has done, you know, their nail and they stay with the same design for like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Is there anything wrong with that?
Yeah, very. You should always visit your salon or your nail tech after at most, I always say at most, 5 weeks.
So that's about how many months?
That's like
that's
1 week, a month
and a week.
And a week. The reason is this. It's the same thing with hair.
Right.
You don't keep your hair for 2 months without washing it. It is not hygienic.
Right.
So it's the same thing with nails. What happens with nails, if they are long and they grow, the weight will shift to the top and they can break and they will hurt you.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if it is gel polish, short ones, you can keep them for 6 weeks. Yeah, 6-7 weeks. But for 2 months, it's a no.
It's a no. I hope that is not some business.
No, it's not
language
business
or anything. Yeah. Okay. We see very many. By the way, speaking of which, before I let go of you, we have seen very many, and I hope this does not come out so negative.
Yeah.
But it's a reality on ground. We've seen very many people from Rwanda, from DR Congo, flocking the market of beauty, the nail market, the hair market. What is so special about what they do that most of the ladies actually will flock into their shops and overlook what we've had locally for the longest of time?
I think they are more hungry, they are more passionate.
All right.
That is the thing. Because I think they don't have anything to lose. The Kenyans are more comfortable. And most people who join the salon industry, they always take it like, let me just do this. Just as by the way. Most people don't do it professionally. So you'll find that it's something just to keep them running. Maybe they just want to do it for the next 1 year, then after that I join college and go. They don't want to be professionals. It's a by the way. So to distinguish that, but for somebody from Rwanda to come here and do it, this is their daily life. This is what they have purpose to do.
Right.
So they don't have anything else to do after this. Yeah.
Okay, speaking of the pricing, the very last one, because yes, the prices vary, but you know, at least we need to have the standard one for the market. As simple, as basic as just doing your nails, cleaning them, and doing gel nail polish. How much would it cost when?
It ranges. It depends with the salon.
Yes. But at least we need to have that standard.
It is very hard to control the salon industry. Yeah. It's the same thing with. I told you the same thing with like hospital. If you go to Bagadi and you go to somewhere like Aga Khan, prices are different because of different elements. Localities. It is not even about the service. Maybe the service is the same thing.
Right.
But there are different things that can determine the prices. But I would also say the prices should not go overboard. It should not be then too less. Because somebody who has a salon somewhere in Kiamaiko, somewhere, those people who are there, the target audience, they can afford a certain. It depends with their target market.
Yeah. All right. But the products still remain the same price in the market.
Yeah, they remain the same.
That is the sad reality. Why I'm asking this is because sometimes we travel alone, and you know, when you are traveling and you're in a different country, you really want to balance and I've experienced that at some point, that you have to just calculate, I mean, their currency with your currency and find out whether, okay, 500 bob nyumbani and everything. So sometimes it's good to understand the aspect of, the pricing and all that. So hata ukienda in some rich hood, hata ukigongwa utagongwa sana. Thank you so much. It was great having you. Of course, we're doing this with Fabian Njukia. It was good having you. Unless there's something else that you'd want to tell the viewer in regards to this, I think we can call it a day.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. It was great having you once again. Next time, make sure, and I repeat, make sure that you carry the entire salon here.
I will.
All right, otherwise I'll come find you.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. And I think it's important then that I cross over to this side of checking out on what is happening on the roads. Here we are. Briefly, because then, yes, we know that courtesy of COVID-19, not so much is happening, but it's also very important that we take a look at what the people are saying. And we cross over to Mathri Root on Twitter. I think, let's take a look at it here. Yes, Mathri Root, and some feedback from the people. I don't know why I'm not getting it on screen. All right, but let's just go through it because, yeah, we also would have done the Google Maps. And this is a tweet by Bugusi who says, just seen statue of Christopher Columbus in Nairobi River. Thought America is far here. Well, interesting. I think also reacting to what we saw in Britain the other day and statues and all the courtesy of the Floyd demonstrations, and people were pulling down the statues, and heavy traffic along Waiyaki Way due to the huge potholes and rough road all along the way. Of course, that is a tweet by Asaki Weiss, and we have Sam_K saying that just seen Muthaiga service lane is no-go zone. I repeat, don't go via Muthaiga service lane. If you are using the road right now, it's important that you take note of that. KBS City Hopper, NEO Kenya, and Neo Kenya, yes, and all the buses operating in CBT, Allsops, and Lucky Summer Road, please wash your vehicles. Yes, wash. It's important that we talk about that right now. Sanitize is pretty much important. And then we have, yes, let me take a look at this. I'm still not able to get that there. Kariga Wainaina says, Asante Apunda ni Mateke, better they are now that they were, better the way they are now than they were before. Some of you were born to be complainers, looking for every little reason to complain. It's better for that one year. I think they are complaining, yes, Kantai is complaining about, as in people are complaining about the state of Thika Road and how tough, of course, the roads are. But then he says at least there's a smooth run. And for many of us who've stayed at Thika Road can clearly say that, there's a huge difference. Whatever roads are being tarmacked in the CBD is total wastage. Okay. I think we have so much feedback. I wish I would have been able to go through them. But then again, we say it's a wrap right here. Today you're going to figure out your way to CBD or your destination. It was great having you. Thank you so much for your time. We've been doing this since 6 a.m. in the morning, and up until now, we can only wish you nothing but the best throughout the day. And most importantly, I advise you to give it TV47 because we have so much so in terms of programming, and we'll also be taking a look at what is happening on the budget and matters politics. We'll be here to update you with more. My name is Linda Alela. It's a wrap right here on Morning Cafe. See you again tomorrow.